Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Rabindranath Tagore's visit to China in 1924 has been described as a milestone in India-China relations. The suggestion that it rekindled a sense of affinity between the peoples of the two countries and promoted solidarity in the struggle against Western imperialism is actually an exaggeration. He may have been received with polite courtesy and enjoyed respect as a Nobel laureate, but his notions of a rejuvenated Eastern civilization, which would include India and China, prevailing over a materialistic and spiritually bankrupt West, in fact found no resonance. Eastern civilization, as the Chinese saw it, did not include India, though perhaps it may include Japan. Left-wing intellectuals such as Lu Xun, Kuomoro, Shen Yanbing, Chen Tuxiu, and Chu Qiubai were all critical of Tagore's ideas, even though they admired his scholarship and poetry. Shen Yanbing, for example, said that, quote, "We are determined not to welcome the Tagore who loudly sings the praises of Eastern civilization, nor do we welcome the Tagore who creates the paradise of poetry and love and leads our youth into it so that they might find comfort and intoxication in meditating," unquote. Chu Qiubai was more dismissive, describing Tagore as a man of the past whose advice was irrelevant. The claim made by Japanese scholar Shigenobu Okura had greater resonance among the Chinese when he said, quote, "Of the nations of Asian civilization today, I consider Japan to be the greatest, of course. Next is China. As for the people of Babylon and India, even though their cultures could be admired in bygone days, now they cannot even be compared," unquote. So the Chinese audience might have contested the Japanese claim to be number one, but would not have disagreed with his subsequent proposition relating to India. Individual Chinese interactions with Indians sometimes produce a more favorable impression. Chang Tai Yuan himself became interested in Buddhism when he was in prison for about 3 years. And his extended conversations with an Indian friend later, when he was in Tokyo, led him to believe that Indians and the Hans should work in solidarity to rid their peoples of British and Manchu alien rule respectively, and that China could draw inspiration from India's own struggle for freedom. There were other Chinese individuals who were deeply influenced by Tagore and accepted his invitation to live and teach at Shantiniketan. And they, of course, included scholars like Tan Yun Shan and Wu Xiaoling and artists like Xu Beihong. Wherever there were opportunities for direct engagement and conversations, the more prejudiced notions could be contested. Unfortunately, much of Chinese and Japanese readings of India during the first decades of the 20th century were derived through translations of British colonial literature, which were openly and even crudely racist in their depictions of India and its people. It is these mediated perceptions which have remained entrenched in Chinese attitudes. As pointed out earlier, Chinese popular attitudes to India and Indians during this period was influenced by the use of Indian soldiers and policemen in the British depredations in China.